How do you see the international situation now with what's going on in Gaza as we speak?
So I take a step back and take a call as to why the power politics of this region led to an incident like that. And my good guesswork is that all these policies that have been around for now some time had led to kind of marginalization of the Palestinian cause. And people were more interested in the Abraham Accords or the I2U2s or the IMAX,
right,
or the exchange of envoys between Saudi Arabia and Syria, and whatever the stuff that the United States was providing to F-16s to UAE. So the Palestinian cause was being increasingly marginalized.
Right.
As it is, West Bank, 60% of territory is now with the occupied Zone 3, Zone C, and
right,
these are settlements across there. So there was nothing left. So if you added all this together, I think the pivot that we have been talking about for quite some time was pivot away from West Asia or Middle East onwards towards Asia and other areas. So the Hamas had to do something strong, something barbaric, something not normal rocket firing 5, 6, 10, 20
right, to bring attention
the
back
attention
to the,
into Palestinian cause.
To the Palestinian cause.
So if you count the world, everybody,
right,
now Palestinians back into that form.
Right.
It's the prime issue of debate today, and
right,
in that manner, the Hamas and what they did succeed.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the statements out of the UN, where the UN head Antonio Guterres has said that Gaza is being strangled, and the UN Security General has said that the Middle East is on the verge of an abyss. So in a sense, Hamas seems to have achieved what they set out to in this horrific attack. They've, you think, once again internationalized the whole Palestine issue?
So it has. You see the demonstration that took place in London. The whole roads were blocked by
right,
people who were favoring Hamas. So what they did was Hamas did was absolutely barbaric,
right,
and brutal. But the fact is that they have come across to achieve some kind of their aim of bringing to fore. Same UN Security Secretary General last year, when he went to Gaza, said this is an open air jail.
right.
If it was an open air jail last year, nothing had moved forward to bring it out. 16 years Gaza has been blockaded.
Right.
It's been from 2007 onwards. So what Hamas didn't actually resort to this firing of 10 rockets or 20 rockets. They did something atrocious, and it brought to fore. And also there was a weightage being given more to West Bank as against Gaza Strip.
So you think the Israeli establishment took its eyes off the ball, and they kind of focused on the wrong threat?
To add, I think they were mollycoddling Hamas.
Right.
For quite some time. The government was mollycoddling Hamas as against the other areas of West Bank, because see, the national security minister comes from West Bank. He's from the occupied territories, and if the large areas and settlements, 6 lakh people, 600,000 people of Israeli origin stay in occupied territories. Focus was shifting. A thought process had come that there will be a next intifada which will take place in the West Bank,
right,
or there will be the forcible occupation, or the Israelis will make the mosque, that issue of making one more mosque. So the thought had changed. I think that lulled the Israelis, and Gazans took advantage. Hamas took advantage of all that it was happening.
But General Sharma, what you just mentioned, isn't that the case with us as well? If you look at it, in our case, we are also facing a two-front war, but a conventional threat. For the longest time, we focused on Pakistan and our eastern front, or as we call it, the northern front with China, was kind of on the back burner. We focused on the the primary threat. We regarded Pakistan as the primary threat, whereas China has now kind of reactivated the northern front as well. So is that in a in a manner of speaking what happened?
So I think that's a three-pointer.
Israel.
You have actually created a good parallel here. From what 80s onwards, we were lulled by the Chinese because the joint working groups, the treaties we were signing with the Chinese, 93, 2000, 96. As you come up to the 2020, and so many meetings have taken place. In
confidence building measures and you
principals
had that.
Meeting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Principals meeting. So it was kind of lulled. This is the issue which I think is most important to us. The illusions created by the adversary.
Right.
the illusions created by the Hamas over a period of time that they were becoming goody-goody and they were becoming more amenable to, because 20,000 people were now allowed to go from Gaza to work in Israel every day.
Yes.
So things were changing. That goody-goodiness actually lulled the Israelis into complacency. That's why you could hold a rave party right next to the borders and whatever you were doing.
Right.
We, and now drawing your parallel, what you are saying, Sandeep, is that we could have been little lulled into complacency, though writing was on the wall on the Chinese side from 2013 onwards. If you recollect, the first time the Chinese came in. So, that way.
So that the lesson for us from this crisis, as you mentioned, is never, lower your guard, especially when you're looking at unsettled boundaries. You have an adversary over there, and that's the simple. Is there any other lesson that you draw from this situation?
So, I feel that you can always get surprised or always get deceived, despite the fact that you do scenario building exercises, you think many ways this can happen, that can happen. Each one of the instances that has happened is absolutely different. What happened in Kargil was different. What happened in Mumbai was different. We were there in Mumbai,
yes.
26/11, and what happened in 2020 was different. Each one, and see here, they came barging with dozers across and cut the fence.
Right.
And this was a military operation. This had nothing to do with a terror operation.
Right.
This was a militarily planned, executed, coordinated operation. Except that it was executed by a terror organization. So they behaved like a terror organization.
So that's interesting. When you say that it's a military operation, do you mean that it was planned by serving military personnel of some country? Or
if it has not happened this way, then I would hats off to Hamas. I have a genuine doubts if it has not been orchestrated by some professional who is a leader of conventional warfare.
Right.
Because this was conventional, there was sea, there was air, there was ground, there were rockets, fire support. This is how military operations are planned.
Right.
This is not how Hamas has been planning over a period of time.
So Hamas, I would imagine from one studies their tactics is small team operations, right? I mean, they do these kind of isolated strikes. They fire rockets.
Terror organization.
But to orchestrate, as you're saying, that to orchestrate a brigade minus, which is almost 1,200 fighters, it would take a certain amount of military skills.
And no weapon was issued to people. It was totally kept under wraps. The weapons were issued on that morning when they were supposed to go in.
Right.
So if you count all these pieces together, this was a professional operation, planned, trained for, exercised in their own area and executed. When they went inside, they behaved like absolutely terror organization.
Savages, absolutely.
Savage.
Yeah, the kind of footage that is emerging,
and then, they have now got on all these videos that they have taken for women being picked up and the children being incapacitated, and they are being releasing these videos slowly, which are being picked up and they are atrocious.
Yeah, I was just looking at one of those videos today where it's a body cam footage of one of these Hamas fighters who's just going in. It's literally. Yeah. We can actually see that video of this short video of this Hamas fighter going in there, and
some
he's
are very
finally
painful
shot.
to watch. They're so atrocious. They're very painful to watch. And how could somebody shoot this thing?
Right. So looking at that video, it just tells you, General Sharma, that they had planned this whole thing with a thing of getting a lot of footage, generating a lot of footage, which then, as you said, they could play out later on to further terrorize. Because when that video kind of plays out, for days and months after the actual attack, then that thing of terror, continues to play, and you're looking at terrorism in the age of social media.
Yeah, so now I would say, there's nothing follow-up to that operation of 7th October by Hamas. Some rockets have been fired, but not, which means is that they planned only one event, not the follow-up events, which is not a military operation like this. So it actually implies that they were actually forcing an irrational reaction coming from the Israelis, and they thought that irrational reaction or that massive reaction, which obviously would come, the psyche of a nation has been hurt, they would be able to get all these issues. But Palestinian cause on the front is also Saudi-Israel normalization and all other talks being carried out, Saudi-Iranian talks.
That's all off now. I think everything is on the back burner. The Saudis are not talking to Israel as they planned.
Actually, the total geopolitical change has been brought about by this event.
Total geopolitical change. That's worrying. And what are the prospects you think of this conflict spreading? You know, the fact that the US has sent in 2 carrier strike groups into the Mediterranean. Does that kind of suggest that there is a possibility the conflict could widen, and which is why they kind of moved in their strike groups there?
So the statement initial of President Biden was a kind of statement one would hear from Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Right.
It was as solid and as potent a statement made by President Biden.